Hello and welcome to This Is. It's that time of year again where Austin tries to convince me to fold. I know when to hold them.
You know when to flip them?
And this is not that year.
Just got back from Samsung's early Unpacked event where I was able to get hands-on of the brand new Z Flip 7, the Z Fold 7, as well as the Z Flip 7 FE, which is the budget Z Flip. This is probably one of the biggest upgrades that Samsung have brought out to their foldable lineup ever. I'm excited, but I'm also very skeptical depending on...
Tell me about it, baby bird.
Okay, let's start with the Z Fold 7. This thing is thin as heck. It is 8.9 millimeters folded. It's only 0.7 millimeters thicker than the S25 Ultra. They're pitching this thing as a Galaxy S25 Ultra that you could just open up.
So I've gone on record saying, like, I don't care about thinness in a phone.
Sorry, what phone are you talking about? You don't care about how thin?
No, that right there, I don't care about whatsoever.
Okay,
but when you're talking about a foldable
Yeah.
and have to double up, that's where it makes
It does make a difference.
more difference.
It's also lighter weight than the S25 Ultra. So you're getting a lot here. They've widened out the cover display. It's not like the super weird skinny thing of before. They've also upgraded the cameras. There's a lot of good stuff here. They've got the 200 megapixel camera from the S25 Edge and the S25 Ultra. It also has a mega camera bump. It's kind of similar to what you get on the S25 Edge, except it's just like one extra layer of thickness.
That was kind of my issue with a lot of the thin phones is if you have to have these giant camera bumps anyway.
If you are a certified foldy boy, if you are ready to fold your phone in half.
I don't even fold my laundry. What makes you think I'm gonna fold my phone?
There's one major downside with the Fold. Spoiler, it's only a 4,400 milliamp hour battery, which is, I think is actually the same as the last year's Fold, but it's not great. So I have attended the pre-briefing, but we're shooting this before actually the Galaxy Unpacked event. So we may see some more stuff like the trifold and whatnot.
Unless that's a damn efficient screen, that's gonna be a rough battery life with that.
I agree. But all that being said, it's one of those things where when you hold that phone, when you look at it, it actually really, really feels impressive. They had a little wall where they had like an evolution of like the fold and the flip lines. It clearly was leading up to this. Now there's still some downsides in that it still has a crease. You can still notice it pretty well. They've done a lot of like tweaking and like tuning and stuff. The ultra thin glass is a little bit thicker this year. I have a lot of questions. I'm looking forward to actually getting extended hands-on time with it, but it will surprise exactly 0% of people to know I was much more excited about the Z Flip.
I don't know if you remember this. It was a very short amount of time, but I did use the Z Flip for a little while.
Flip 4, if I remember right.
Because the things I didn't like about it was, one, I didn't find the Flip to be useful in any way, shape, or form to me. I didn't think it was cool enough to warrant it. I did not like feeling the crease on it. I've been watching you use this for years.
Yep.
And as much as you love to gush over it, I've always seen you have more issues. Your screens are messed up. You have to send them out. Yep. Like you've never had one that lasted a full year.
What you're saying is valid. Foldable phones are inherently more fragile. When you're going for foldable, you're gonna just have to accept that there are some
tell me
compromises.
what's new about this one that'll make me change my mind.
There's nothing here that's gonna change your mind. If you're a hardcore flip or fold hater, there's basically one major upgrade.
Tell me why
this
this exists.
So the Flip 7 has completely redone the outer display. Now it looks much more like a Moto Razr. So on the inside of the phone, it went from 6.7 to 6.9 inches, entirely because the phone is a little bit wider. At first, I picked up the Flip 7. I'm like, I'm not sure there's a big difference. Then I picked up a 6 and I was like, oh wait, no. That actually does make a meaningful difference. It is the thinnest bezel of any Samsung phone they've ever made, period. That outer display is also just better across the board. I didn't get the resolution on the Z Flip 7. I expected somewhere in 1080p because it looked really sharp. And I will say that while I these days have more mixed thoughts on the Z Flip, there's definitely things here that I appreciate, because one of the big advantages of the Flip to me is that it is a phone, like, you know, there's all these like phones that try to keep you from using your phone, like, oh, it's a dumb phone that like has 3 apps, or like, you know, whatever.
Stay tuned for that video because
you're gonna try it, right?
I'm gonna be doing that.
The Z Flip, I think, is a better solution to this because you can load up pretty much any app on the outer display once you go through Good Lock. And it will function, but it will not function well. I do think there's some value there because also the act of unfolding the phone every time you want to use it, it's just that little bit of extra friction. It's like, you know what? Do I need to doom scroll threads for the next 20 minutes? No, maybe I don't. So I would say that's a feature, not a bug.
I was on board with you until you said it doesn't work well. Because I am one of those people who I try and use my phone less and less and less.
Yeah.
I've deleted all my social media off my phone completely. If the front screen is 100% functional, that would be what convinces me for that to exist. Because everyone's like, well, I want a larger screen to consume media. I want a larger screen to just check and type and whatever. So you could get the best of both worlds on that.
I got 2 hour hands-on with flip and fold together. So it's not like I was able to do a whole lot of anything besides just, poke and prod it a little bit. I assumed that like the previous flips, you can go into Good Lock and force an app to like show up on that cover screen. I'm not sure exactly which have been supported. Unfortunately, it's not going to be quite like the Razr. I mean, at this point, if you're using a Moto Razr, you've got the full experience on that outer
Which
display.
I think was the selling point of the Razr.
There's no question that the Flip 7 has a significantly better cover display, which is good because that's almost the only upgrade. Cameras, as far as I can tell, are the same. 50 megapixel main sensor, which is fine. Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Not cutting edge. They've done a lot of software improvements, 10-bit HDR video, yada, yada, yada. It has a larger battery. So it has a 4,300 milliamp hour battery, which is 300 milliamp hours larger and almost the exact same size as the Fold, because the Flip, unlike the Fold, is not a super thin boy.
That's weird, right?
I agree. No, I agree. It's good because I want a bigger battery. I think everyone does. It's clear that the Fold this year very much prioritized that thinness. There are also some hardware improvements on the inside, much more in the weeds, but I thought it was kind of cool. They redesigned the circuit board. They changed the actual hinge, so it's 30% smaller. It felt fine. I want to spend more time with it because with folding phones, the hinges actually kind of like wear in. I personally think is actually a good thing. Also, the Flip and Fold are now in Samsung's self-repair program, which I would be curious to see how expensive that will be and how easy you can do that. There's also an additional Z Flip, which is the FE. So this is a cheaper version of the Z Flip. It's essentially a Z Flip 6. Identical across the board, same sort of design, screens, outer display. It looks completely the same. It's only available in white and black, where you can get a lot more colors with the Z Flip 7. The FE starts at $900, and the Z Flip 7 starts at $1,100.
What are we sacrificing with the FE?
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, please tell me.
The Snapdragon processors have been given the boot.
So the best processors on the market are no longer in the phone.
Correct. So it is the 2400 in the Z Flip FE and the 2500 in the Z Flip 7. Now, in the past, Samsung have done the dual sourcing thing where certain markets would get Exynos, certain would get Snapdragon. There's a lot of sort of talk about that. I'm not 100% sure on this, but my understanding is that the Exynos is going to be global. It certainly will be the processor that is shipping in the Z Flip in the US, I'm pretty sure, across the board. The Snapdragon chips, the 8 Elite specifically, very, very performant chip. And Qualcomm knows this, and they charge a lot of money for it. Samsung, there've been a lot of rumors the last couple of years. The Samsung are struggling to not have to keep raising the prices, and they did. So last year they raised the Z Flip by $100. This year they raised the Z Fold by $100. They're trying to like kind of keep these costs under control. And as a company who make their own processors, there's a whole lot of incentive for them to use their own processors. I do not know what this is going to mean. I think there's going to be a lot of trepidation because, again, in the past, the Exynos processors have been worse than the Snapdragon processors, especially when like you would get like the European versus the American version or whatever. The Exynos chips would be hotter. They would have worse performance. Every chip is different. And just because you made one bad thing doesn't mean that your next thing's going to be bad or anything like that. I want to be very clear with that. But it seems pretty telling to me that the Fold got the Snapdragon and the Flip did not. If the Exynos was so great, of course they would put it everywhere. But I think they specifically wanted to keep the Snapdragon on the higher end and they wanted to save some money.
I have to question, at what point do we ask, why are we still doing this? It's not new. It's not shiny. It's not like they're adding the Exynos because it's like, oh, we can give you a $500 brand new phone to make this technology happen. It's, hey, we're putting this in here so we don't have to deal with inflation and stuff like that. I still just question who these are for most people.
Samsung are a little bit unique here because really in the United States, there are two companies who make folding phones. Three if you count Google, but the Pixel Fold is fine, but that's one option. Motorola sell the Razr. Now, the Razr has been around for just as long, in fact, slightly longer than the Flip. Nowadays, you could buy a Moto Razr, the brand new 2025 model, for $700. I understand that they can't make a huge difference between the FE and the regular, but it's like they didn't make a difference at all. They just dropped another chip in it and called it a day.
Look, I have never once daily to fold, so I can't talk too much about that.
That's the phone that's exciting. I think that's what people are going to be amped about.
A lot of the things that I don't like on the Z Flip are somewhat solved with the Fold, because if you're using the S Pen, which I feel like
the S Pen doesn't work anymore on the Fold.
What? Never mind.
Forgot to mention that a little bit.
This changes a lot of my thoughts. So you're taking this line that you've been trying to push now for 5 years, you're making it worse. No longer has the S Pen feature, which was a major selling point for, I would say, almost anyone who's getting that. Why are we making this so thin?
Okay, but hang on. There is one thing though. The previous Fold models, I would argue, they were an awkward size.
They were awkward.
They were thick and they were heavy. Like
There's nothing wrong with being awkward, thick, and heavy, guys.
I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you in some ways. But the previous folds, I felt like always were really awkward when it came to using them. This feels like a phone that has actually dropped the compromise. I will say that, again, I'm biased because I like the Flip. The Fold is the exciting phone here. The Flip had a minor update. It's a nicer outer display.
I'm gonna be honest, like as soon as you told me that,
Yeah.
I lost all interest in it. Guys, you could just buy a tablet for cheaper
And fold it in half?
No, but like you didn't talk about the price. How much is the Fold now?
$2,000.
$2,000. That's a 1995 Honda Civic, guys.
And this economy?
Wow. And the Civic Fold's even easier.
Like we said at the beginning, it's a very conflicted kind of thing because S Pen aside, which I understand is a very valuable tool for some people. I think for me, I never used it. I don't care. The Fold is a dramatically better phone. The battery life is a big question mark, but I will tell you that it's so much thinner. The displays are nicer because they've changed the aspect ratio of everything.
It's nice for the 10 minutes that's on. I think Samsung is going down this trend of the last few phones. They're giving us features that zero people are asking for and taking away the features that people are actually asking for.
They're putting design over function.
Right. This is my official statement now. The folding experiment from Samsung is failed. If you can't make it catch on in 5 years, it's not gonna catch on. If like your whole philosophy is just, let's make something unique, give me a square phone. Give me the Z Flip just without the fold. Just give me the front of it. I will buy that phone.
Why?
Why not? It's a unique form factor that will sit in my pocket. You can make that smaller phone a lot cheaper. The argument, a few years ago was, well, this is experimental. 7 generations of a phone. If you can't make it happen now, it's not gonna happen.
I do hear you. There's some validity to that. But the larger phones at $2,000, that is very much a niche kind of thing. That's why I put like the Pixel Fold in that same kind of category. But the Flips actually do sell. I see Flips on a regular basis, not weirdo nerds like us who decide to subscribe to the This Is channel and ring-a-ling-the-ding-ling. I'm talking about like average, everyday people who appreciate the fact that it's a smaller phone.
There's dozens of you. I'm convinced that has nothing to do with the Flip. It just boils down to those people like, oh, you know what? That is different. Those same people would have gotten an LG Wing.
No, the Flip is different. The Flip is a physically smaller footprint. There are a lot of people who may not have pockets in their jeans, who have a small bag, who have tiny baby hands. There's dozens of us out there, okay?
You know what's messed up is every single Flip that I've ever seen. So I go to a bagel place and the owner of the bagel place has one. She has the thickest, biggest case on it.
Yeah. A lot of people do that, yeah.
It's like, it literally like doubles the thickness. I'm just saying, if you gave people a unique form factor, when I say unique, I want like a square phone.
You can choose to use whatever phone for any reason. But what I'm saying is the flipping form factor at a quasi-reasonable price tag.
If Motorola can give you a solid phone for $700,
why is the FE $900?
Samsung should be giving you one for $600.
I mean, there's still advantages. I mean, they have like 7 years of software updates. They do have the new One UI. The FE is a big question mark. I also don't think they're really seeding a lot of them out for reviewers because I think that most people realize that's not a great deal.
All right, let's talk about the Pixel Fold. Google's giving you the Google sauce, which you're not getting with Samsung.
You don't want the Google sauce.
You want the Google sauce. And they're putting out a reasonably priced flip phone. Why can't Samsung do that?
This has been an argument against Samsung for quite a while. They were very innovative with the first Fold and Flip.
Sure.
And in the first couple of years, they made a lot of progress, and they've been very slow. Samsung are kind of like, they're just doing their thing like every other. The Fold, I will say, I just want to be really clear. You may complain about the battery, you may complain about the S Pen, like these are all valid things. I will say, when you hold it and you use it, some of that sort of skepticism, I think, does wash away. So I guess to me, I'm excited. Stay tuned. I actually have some content coming up very shortly, specifically on the Flip, but also I know that Ken's gonna be covering the Fold. I'm torn though, because I think that there are some good updates in a vacuum, but also there are some sort of caveats to both, right? It's not like an, obvious next generation way better. I think the Flip is an improvement across the board, except for the chip, which is a big question mark. That chip might be great and totally fine, and we wouldn't have a problem. I have some skepticism. And same thing with the Fold. The Fold, yes, it's more expensive. That $100 doesn't make a huge difference in my opinion, considering how much more improved the design is. But the battery life, I'm a little bit questioning on, and I understand that a lot of people are gonna hate the fact that the S Pen is gone. I'm a little more positive on the Fold than the Flip. I do wish that the Flip had the 200 megapixel camera. Just a big old asterisk on this. I think unlike a lot of these hands-on events where you can pretty much kind of get the idea very quickly, both of these phones are gonna need some extended hands-on time and test to find out, are the compromises that Samsung took, whether it be battery on the Fold, or whether it be the chip on the Flip, worth